There is a city in America where the past refuses to die, where the bones of a once great civilization still stand crumbling and magnificent in the middle of a living, breathing metropolis, where you can walk down a street lined with glass towers, turn a corner, and find yourself face to face with a ruin that looks like it belongs in ancient Rome. That city is Detroit, and these are 10 of its most haunting, most forgotten, most extraordinary abandoned buildings. Number 10. The Michigan Theater. We start our journey in the heart of downtown Detroit, at a place that is the single greatest metaphor for the city's rise and fall. The Michigan Theater was built in 1926 on the exact site where Henry Ford built his first gasoline-powered car in 1896. Think about that for a moment. The automobile was born on this spot, and then the automobile killed it. The theater was a palace of dreams with 4,000 seats, a Wurlitzer organ, and a ceiling so ornate it took craftsmen 2 years to complete. For decades, it was the crown jewel of Detroit's entertainment district. But as the city hollowed out, the theater struggled, and in 1976, it closed. The building was slated for demolition, but the owners discovered a loophole. The adjoining office building needed a parking garage, and demolishing the theater would have compromised the structural integrity of the office building. So instead of tearing it down, they gutted it. They ripped out the seats, they stripped the walls, they poured concrete floors, and they built a 3-story parking garage inside the shell of the most beautiful theater in Detroit. Today, you can park your car beneath a ceiling of crumbling plaster angels, surrounded by the ghost of a building that was once a monument to human creativity. It is one of the most surreal sights in America. From downtown, we travel east to a neighborhood that was once one of the most vibrant in the city. The Easttown Theater opened in 1931 as a neighborhood movie palace, one of 4 grand cinemas that served Detroit's East Side. But its real legacy was made in the late 1960s and early 1970s, when it became one of the most important rock venues in the country. The Who played here, the Grateful Dead played here, Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop and the Stooges, and a young band called Led Zeppelin all took the stage at the Easttown. But the theater was also a place of chaos. Drug deals happened in the bathrooms. Fights broke out in the aisles. The police were called so often that the city eventually forced the venue to close. The building then spent the next 3 decades cycling through a series of failed attempts at revival, from an adult movie theater to a church to a performing arts center, before finally being abandoned in 2004. It was demolished in 2015. Today, the lot where the Easttown once stood is empty, a patch of grass in a neighborhood that has never fully recovered from the loss. Number 8. The Vanity Ballroom. We now travel deeper into the East Side, to a place that was once one of the most elegant ballrooms in the Midwest. The Vanity Ballroom opened in 1929, just months before the stock market crash that would trigger the Great Depression. It was a place of Spanish Renaissance architecture, of chandeliers and terrazzo floors, and of a dance floor that could hold 500 couples. The big bands of the era played here: Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey, and Benny Goodman. During the Second World War, the ballroom was a place where soldiers said goodbye to their families before shipping overseas. But as the post-war era transformed Detroit's neighborhoods, the Vanity Ballroom slowly lost its audience. It closed in the 1980s and has been slowly decaying ever since. Today, the Vanity Ballroom is one of the most beautiful ruins in Detroit, its ornate facade still largely intact, and its interior a haunting reminder of a world that no longer exists. Number 7. The Lee Plaza. From the east side, we travel to the west side of Detroit, to a building that stands as a monument to both ambition and hubris. The Lee Plaza was built in 1929 by Ralph T. Lee, one of the most powerful real estate developers in Detroit's history. It was a 15-story Art Deco masterpiece, designed to be the most luxurious apartment hotel in the city. Lee spared no expense. The lobby was lined with marble. The apartments were fitted with the finest fixtures money could buy. But Lee had built his empire on debt, and when the Great Depression hit, it all came crashing down. He lost the building within years of opening it. The Lee Plaza changed hands multiple times over the following decades, eventually becoming a subsidized housing complex for the elderly before finally closing in 1997. Since then, it has been slowly stripped bare by scrappers who have torn out the copper pipes, the marble floors, and even the ornate plasterwork from the ceilings. Today, the Lee Plaza stands as a hollow shell, its Art Deco facade still magnificent from the outside, its interior a gutted ruin that speaks to the city's long struggle with disinvestment and neglect. Number 6. The Brewster Recreation Center. We now travel to the heart of Detroit's African-American community, to a building whose story is inseparable from the story of Black America in the 20th century. The Brewster Recreation Center opened in 1929 as a community facility for the residents of the Brewster housing projects, which were the first federally funded public housing projects for Black Americans in the United States. The center was a place of cultural significance. Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, trained here as a young man before going on to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, and Florence Ballard, who would go on to form the Supremes, grew up in the Brewster projects and spent their childhoods in this building. The center was a place of boxing gyms and swimming pools, of dance classes and after-school programs, of a community that was building something remarkable against all odds. But as the projects declined and were eventually demolished, the recreation center lost its purpose. It closed in 2006 and has been decaying ever since. Today, the Brewster Recreation Center is a ruin, its windows broken, its roof collapsing, its walls covered in graffiti. But for the people who grew up here, it is still a sacred place, a monument to a community that was destroyed by the very policies that were supposed to help it. Number 5. Cass Technical High School. From the heart of the African American community, we travel to a building that was once considered one of the finest high schools in the entire country. Cass Technical High School was founded in 1907 as Detroit's first vocational school, and over the following century, it became a legendary institution that produced an extraordinary roster of alumni. Jack White of the White Stripes went to Cass Tech. So did Diana Ross. So did Lily Tomlin, Gilda Radner, and Ellen Burstyn. The school was a place of academic rigor and artistic excellence, a place where the children of Detroit's working class could get an education that was the equal of anything offered at the city's most elite private schools. But as Detroit's population collapsed, so did the school's enrollment. In 2005, the school moved to a new building, and the old Cass Tech building was left behind. A fire broke out in 2007, and the building was finally demolished in 2011. Today, the site of the old Cass Tech is a parking lot, a flat expanse of asphalt that gives no hint of the extraordinary institution that once stood there. We now travel to a building that tells the story of Detroit's spiritual life and of the devastating impact that population loss can have on a community's soul. St. Agnes Church was built in 1925 to serve the growing Catholic community on Detroit's west side. It was a place of soaring Gothic arches and magnificent stained glass windows, a place where generations of families came to be baptized, confirmed, married, and buried. At its peak, the parish had thousands of members and was one of the most vibrant Catholic communities in the city. But as the neighborhood changed and the population declined, the congregation shrank. The Archdiocese of Detroit closed St. Agnes in 2006 as part of a wave of parish consolidations that shuttered dozens of churches across the city. The building has been slowly decaying ever since. Its stained glass windows are broken, its roof is leaking, and its pews are rotting. Today, St. Agnes Church is a ruin, a place of extraordinary beauty and profound sadness, a monument to a community that has been scattered to the winds. Number 3. The Packard Automotive Plant. From the spiritual to the industrial, we now travel to a building that is perhaps the most iconic symbol of Detroit's decline. The Packard Automotive Plant was designed by the legendary architect Albert Kahn and built between 1903 and 1911. It was the most advanced automobile factory in the world, a complex of 40 buildings spread across 35 acres on Detroit's east side. During the Second World War, the plant was converted to produce aircraft engines for the Allied forces, and the workers of the Packard plant, many of them women, built the engines that powered the Spitfires and the Mustangs that won the war in Europe. But after the war, Packard struggled to compete with the Big Three, and the last true Packard rolled off the assembly line in 1956. The plant was used for various industrial purposes for the next few decades, before finally being abandoned in the 1990s. For 30 years, the Packard plant was the ultimate symbol of urban decay, a place of broken windows and crumbling concrete that attracted urban explorers from around the world. In 2013, a Spanish developer named Fernando Palazuelo bought the plant for $405,000 with grand plans for redevelopment. Those plans have never materialized, and in 2022, a judge ordered the demolition of the most dangerous sections of the complex. Today, the Packard plant is still standing, a monument to the gap between ambition and reality that has defined so much of Detroit's recent history. Number 2. Michigan Central Station. We now travel to the building that has become the most famous symbol of Detroit's abandonment and its most dramatic story of potential redemption. Michigan Central Station was built in 1913 and was, at the time of its construction, the tallest rail station in the world. It was a place of breathtaking grandeur, a Beaux-Arts masterpiece with a waiting room modeled on the Roman baths of Caracalla, with ceilings that soared 18 meters above the marble floors. At its peak, the station served more than 4,000 passengers a day. But as the automobile replaced the train as America's preferred mode of transportation, the station's fortunes declined. By the 1970s, it was a shadow of its former self. The last train departed on January 5, 1988, and the building was locked and abandoned. For the next 30 years, Michigan Central Station was the most photographed ruin in America, a place that became a global symbol of urban decay. Then, in 2018, Ford Motor Company purchased the station for an undisclosed sum and announced plans to restore it as a hub for its autonomous vehicle research. The restoration was completed in 2024, and Michigan Central Station is now open to the public once more. It is one of the most remarkable stories of architectural redemption in American history. Number 1. The Grand Ballroom. We end our journey at a building that is not just an abandoned structure, but the birthplace of a musical revolution. The Grand Ballroom opened in 1928 as a dance hall on Detroit's west side. For the first 3 decades of its existence, it was a perfectly ordinary venue, a place of big bands, polka nights, and wedding receptions. In 1966, a promoter named Russ Gibb leased the building and transformed it into the epicenter of Detroit's psychedelic rock scene. The Grand Ballroom became the place where MC5 and the Stooges, 2 of the most important bands in the history of punk and hard rock, developed their sound. It was a place of ear-splitting volume and political fury, where a generation of young Detroiters came to find their voice. Led Zeppelin played one of their first American shows at the Grand. Cream played there. The Jeff Beck Group played there. For 5 extraordinary years, the Grand Ballroom was one of the most important music venues in the world. But the venue closed in 1972, and the building has been slowly decaying ever since. Today, the Grand Ballroom is a ruin. Its ballroom floor warped and rotting, its walls covered in graffiti, its ceiling open to the sky. But for anyone who cares about the history of rock and roll, it is a sacred place, a monument to a moment when music and rebellion and the city of Detroit were all the same thing. So, what is the story of Detroit? It is a story of a city that built the modern world and then watched as the modern world left it behind. It is a story of extraordinary beauty and extraordinary pain, of buildings that were once monuments to human ambition and are now monuments to human failure. But it is also a story of resilience, of a city that refuses to give up, of a people who are rebuilding their home one block, one building, one story at a time. The abandoned buildings of Detroit are not just ruins. They are a record of everything this city has been, and a reminder of everything it could still become. If you found this video interesting, drop a comment below and tell me which building surprised you the most. And if you want to see more stories like this, hit that subscribe button, because there are a lot more stories to tell.